Okay, so what I've done here is these decals came on one sheet, so obviously you have to cut them apart. But then what I like to do is see how I've trimmed around the edges really close to the decal. I left like maybe 1/8 of an inch or so outside the decal. That way what you've got to work with here is the same shape as the hood where you're going to be laying it on there. So you can see how now it's kind of going to be contoured to the shape of the hood where you're going to be applying it, and that'll help you to visually get it straightened out exactly where you want it once you put it on there. So now it's time to put some of the soapy water on here. I think they make a special fluid that you can use for this, but most people just use some soapy water, so I mixed up some dish water and some dish soap and some water. I'm gonna spray that on there, stick the decal on, and get it where we want it. Alright guys, I know the wind is really bad out here, so if the audio is terrible, I apologize, but I've got the first part of the decal applied to the hood here with the soapy water, and now I'm just going to use this little blade here, plastic blade, to squeegee the water out. I have walked around the car and walked around the car and walked around the car and looked at it from every angle to make sure that's exactly where I want it. And I even went so far as to take out a tape measure and measure the distance between the bend in the hood and the edge of the decal to make sure it's exactly the same on both sides. So once you are absolutely sure that it's where you want it to be, then you take a blade like this and squeegee all the water out of it, get all the air bubbles and everything out, and then you just let it sit here for a couple hours in the sun. And once all that soapy water evaporates and dries out, then you can remove the backing paper. All right, so we'll come back in a little while and do the big one. I started with the little one just to make sure I wasn't going to have any problems, and just to make sure I knew exactly what I was doing before we tackle this big one that goes on the front here. So we'll come back in a little while and check in, see what it looks like. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with how the top part is going to work out. I'm going to let it sit there for a little longer so it can dry. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and take our soapy water here, spray down the front. Make sure you spray it down really good. Now, one of the mistakes I made is I think I put a little bit too much dish soap in here. So it says in the instructions just to use 1 drop of dish soap and a bottle of water. You don't need a whole lot of soap, just enough to kind of give it a little slipperiness. And so I put some more water in here and diluted it a little bit more this time. And we're just going to spray this down really good here. You want it good and wet because you can always squeegee the water back out. But if you don't have enough water, it'll end up sticking. The decal will stick on you. You won't be able to move it where you want it. So make sure you put plenty of water on there. And then we'll go get this decal. Now, the instructions say to do this only when it's 70 degrees or warmer outside. It's not that warm here today, but with the sun being out, and I've been driving the car this morning, so the hood is hot from the engine heat, I think it'll be okay. So here's the lower part of the decal, and the tricky part about this one is just going to be peeling it all off. You got to peel the backing paper off without letting it roll up on itself and get stuck to itself. So I'm going to have to put the phone down and use 2 hands on this part, but I'll show you what it looks like when we're finished. Alright, so it's on here. The decal is on. I don't know how long it's going to take it to dry out, since it's, like I said, it's a little chilly out here today, and you're supposed to do this when it's warm outside, but the weather has just been terrible here really all winter, and now it's spring and it's still terrible out here. So you got to do what you got to do when you can do it. But it's on there, so I'm going to give it a couple hours now to dry out really good here in the sun, and then we'll go ahead and peel the rest of that paper off, and hopefully it'll look pretty good. So I'll show you the final product here in a little while, but I just wanted to show you guys you can do this at home. It's not difficult to do. I spent $60 on this decal, and I already had this thing, but you can pick these up dirt cheap anywhere. And pretty much just mix up some soapy water. You can move it around wherever you want. You can do this yourself at home and save a lot of money instead of going to a body shop and paying them hundreds of dollars. I think they wanted $400 to do this at a body shop, so instead I'm doing it for $60, and you guys can do this at home too. So we'll go back here a little while and see what it looks like. I'll peel this paper off in a couple hours, and I'll show you how cool it looks when it's all finished. Alright guys, so here's the finished product. Turned out pretty good. I actually got one bubble in there, right there. Daggone it. One bubble. The rest of it turned out really well, all things considered. So I'm going to give it a day or two and just see if it dries up a little bit more. If not, I'll take a needle and just kind of poke right in the middle of it and hopefully squeeze the rest of it out. But yeah, it turned out pretty good. Late model restoration decal looks pretty awesome on there. And I didn't realize it. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. But it's actually got a little bit of a metal flake look to it. So that's pretty cool. Worked out great. Looks just like factory and saved hundreds of bucks. So there you go. Like I said, you guys can do this at home. Don't be afraid to give it a whirl. Just make sure you take your time and it'll turn out really well. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.